Why did BoJack Horseman get canceled? Was the show about a depressed talking horse just too depressing to continue? Or are there other hidden reasons behind the show's sad ending? Let's find out in this video. Well, there are two answers to why the show got canceled: the real-life answer and the fictional in-universe answer. Mind you, the latter is more complicated than the former. But before we jump into that, ensure you have liked the video and subscribed to our channel. The real-world answer to why BoJack Horseman ended is that it was hurting Netflix more than benefiting it to keep the show running. Production of the show was getting higher with every season, and viewership had just about plateaued and was starting to dip as fans watched shows with shorter and fewer episodes. But 6 seasons for a Netflix original series wasn't bad. In fact, by the time BoJack ended in 2020, most series on the streaming platform never saw season 3. So please, don't be sad that the show got canceled, but be happy it made the light of day. Moreover, BoJack Horseman is not your regular adult-themed animated sitcom like Archer or Family Guy. The show's dynamics and character arcs alone peak consistently if it runs on a short time. The show did Netflix a big favor when it started airing in 2014, with its success garnering an audience in the early days of the streaming platform. It was only fitting that Netflix did Raphael Bob Wakesberg and his team a solid and let them know beforehand when they would pull the plug. A gesture that Bob appreciated when he said, "I said to Netflix I would appreciate it if I could have forewarning to give a show a proper finale and not set up some cliffhangers that will never pay off." When Netflix picked up season 6, they said, "Hey, remember how you asked us that heads up? We think that this is your heads up." So I'm very grateful that we got that notice. Now that we have that out of the way, let's talk about the show's not so happy ending. I mean, why would you expect a lovey-dovey fairy tale ending from a show about depression, alcohol, drugs, and promiscuity centered around a narcissistic, self-loathing, and toxic main character? If any end would be out of pocket, it would be one where it was truly delightful and conclusive, and BoJack Horseman's ending was left pretty open, almost as to tell viewers BoJack will be BoJack, so make of it what you want with the ending. Just don't get too imaginative.
Yeah, well, what are you gonna do? Life's a bitch and then you die, right?
Sometimes life's a bitch and then you keep living.
These are one of the last words of the show by Diane to BoJack as they sat on the roof under a night sky. The events leading up to this are somewhat chaotic. BoJack was just at Princess Caroline's wedding to make up with all the people in his life that are still alive, and that he is wronged in his tragic and terrible quest for redemption and inner peace. He was only at the wedding because he got a one-day release from prison for that purpose. But why was BoJack in prison in the first place? Well, it was a series of events that had a domino effect, which ended with him set to spend 14 months in a supermax prison, which could be all traced back to when he went to Angela Diaz's home, where she convinced BoJack to be bought out of his horsing around royalties, severing him not only from the franchise, but the only thing that gave him a sense of self-worth. The two got drunk, and Angela confessed she manipulated BoJack to keep her job. Disturbed by his revelation, he carries Angela's car and drives to what used to be his house, breaking in and drinking some more. BoJack watches clips from horsing around and realizes how much he owes Herb for his success. He somehow finds himself intoxicated by the alcohol overdose and drowns in the pool. While sinking, he has a psychic episode where he is at dinner with all the close people in his life that have died. He's found in the pool face down by the family that lives there, and after being resuscitated at the hospital, he's arrested and jailed. Now back to the wedding. The episode's title, "Nice While It Lasted," describes the mixed feelings fans had about the show ending and BoJack's many selfish one-sided friendships that either developed characters for the better or got them killed. All 3 of the characters BoJack talks to in the end, Princess Caroline, Diane, and Todd, don't harbor any ill feelings towards BoJack and are a reflection of how far he's come. With Diane, their conversation recounts what a selfish jerk he has been, and he accepts this. With Todd, they talk about what a future for him might look like.
I'm trying to set little goals for myself. Like, in a couple months, I'll beat my record for being sober.
With Princess Caroline, he shows just how much he has grown from his selfish self. I mean, the fact that BoJack didn't try to sabotage the wedding like he did with Diane and Peanut Butter shows just how far he's come.
No, I would talk you into going through with it, and it would be like a symbol of how much I'd grown, that I could let you go.
Saying goodbye to his friends may not have been the happy ending he wanted, but the one he needed.
Is it possible you letting me go is the happy ending?
And for the first time in 6 seasons, when the show ended, BoJack could finally look forward to a healthy new start. Even if he relapsed, he could start again as many times as he needed to, as Todd suggested.
What if I relapse again?
Then you'll get sober again.
He may be a canceled celebrity and former sitcom actor whose glory days are behind him, and whose friends have moved on from him. But he can run without looking back because he has let go of his past and made peace with the painful reality. Maybe BoJack is the only sad one by the end of the show, but in retrospect, this might be his own little happy ending. Ironic as this may sound, the show BoJack Horseman starts with an interview about what BoJack has been doing since his sitcom show Horsing Around ended 18 years ago. This question was thrown at him.
Oh, well, let's talk about real life. What have you been doing since the show's cancellation 18 years ago?
His answer? Utterly clueless, because he hasn't been doing much since then except binge-watching his show while reminiscing about his glory days and indulging in alcohol and substance abuse. There's not much to go on about why the sitcom got canceled. Still, Herb Kazaz's cancellation for being gay and an incident where child actor Sarah Lynn drank from a water bottle filled with vodka belonging to BoJack caused a volatile drama offset that led to the show concluding after 9 seasons. BoJack was involved in both incidents. He refused to stand up for his friend Herb, leading to his shameful dismissal, and he left the water bottle carelessly lying around. Mind you, Herb Kazaz was the creator of Horsing Around, and cancellation is the inevitable fate of shows that lose their founding executives. With BoJack being the star of the show, he was always getting away with things he shouldn't, which fueled his reckless and negligent behavior. Even 19 years after the show ended, the fortune he amassed from the show allowed him to live in the Hollywood Hills, and his environment and resources aggravated his toxic self-harming behavior. But where did it all go wrong? It's easy to see BoJack as selfish, ignorant, but you have to remember he's been a victim of abuse. Not to defend his irrational behavior, but when your parents inflict your most significant psychological and emotional trauma upon you, it's hard to be better for it. BoJack's parents, Butterscotch and Beatrice Horseman, didn't plan on having BoJack, as he was literally the product of a one-night stand. Butterscotch, barely making ends meet now, had a family to take care of, and Beatrice had to forfeit her aristocratic lifestyle to be with Butterscotch and raise their son. Neither of them spared BoJack in telling him how much they hated him.
The whole day's shot, all because of you and that brittle wisp of a woman you made the mistake of making your mother.
When they weren't scoring him, they were busy getting drunk. I guess the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, right? But apparently, a tragic and sad childhood was not the only thing young BoJack picked up from his parents. The absence of strong parents created a void in BoJack, which he filled by idolizing the famous racehorse Secretariat. On a show where Secretariat receives a letter from 9-year-old BoJack asking him what he does when he gets sad, the Secretariat said,
"When I was your age, I got sad. A lot."
And the fact that Secretariat's childhood drew parallels with BoJack made Secretariat an even more relatable figure to BoJack. However, with BoJack's lousy sense of judgment, Secretariat's words may have brewed self-centeredness in BoJack.
Don't you stop running, and don't you ever look behind you. There's nothing for you behind you. All that exists.
These were words that BoJack would live by as he propelled himself into stardom. He grew up to get into stand-up comedy and later landed a role on Horsing Around.
It wasn't Ibsen.
That's your takeaway? That your son's TV show?
And that was the only thing that could calm his nerves to the point that he could face hate and resentment from even his mom.
I'm sorry, did you need a compliment?
But the fact that he was a star in a sitcom in the prime of his career meant he had thick skin. Growing up, he was incredibly motivated, but with no proper guide. His confidence quickly turned to arrogance. After Horsing Around ended, BoJack was still running, but in circles, spiraling down a rabbit hole that is his unresolved internal issues. The problem with this philosophy is that it dodges accountability for your actions and doesn't allow you to face your demons head on.
You can't keep doing shitty things and then feel bad about yourself like that makes it okay.
Secretariat sure did practice what he preached and was running so fast and so far that he ended it when things got too much for him to bear. With his brother dead and the secret of him betting on his own races, suicide felt like the only escape for him. And this path of self-destruction is what BoJack was on. All that existed for BoJack wasn't ahead of him. His glory days were behind him, and he was doing what his idol told him not to do, which was looking behind him. Everything BoJack was doing since the end of the show was not to move on or ahead with things. He was doing everything he could to relive his former glory while hurting everyone else around him and taking up new projects to get things back to how they used to be. Although these projects weren't failures, they didn't give him what he sought. That same sense of euphoria being the star of Horsing Around did. BoJack may be a fictional comedy adult cartoon, but similarities between the show and some real-world stars can be seen with similar personal conflicts and issues. BoJack's struggles should be a lesson to everyone that life's best moments don't last forever, and staying stuck in that past won't make things better. With that said, let's wrap things up. We hope you found something to inspire, challenge, or entertain you. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications. Thanks for tuning in, and see you next time.